Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. Thank you for joining us on our webinar today. This is our series called Ahead of the Curve, Digital Marketing Tips, Tricks, and Best Practices for Businesses During COVID-19. This is our 7th of our 8-part series. Super excited today with our topic, but before we get into that, let's just do a quick sound check. Make sure that we're coming through okay. Just chat in the question pane there just to let us know that that it's coming through. Great, excellent. Okay, perfect. Just a couple of things to note, couple of housekeeping items. The lines are muted. You can submit your questions via the question pane, and we will have a Q&A session at the end here. Also, if you happen to have any issues with your audio, and we do have a lot of people on this webinar, and so occasionally that happens, we would just urge you to log out and log back in. That typically fix it. Or if you're still having an issue, there's a telephone number typically provided for your region that you can call into in order to get the audio. Also, just want to let you know the webinar is being recorded and it will be sent out to you as part of this registering for this series. Just a little bit of info about WSI. So at WSI here, we've been around for 25 years. Literally, we've worked with over 100,000 businesses across multiple industries. And when COVID happened, we really wanted to find a way to help businesses through this. Of course, most businesses that haven't digitized are really being forced to digitize through this. And so this series is designed to provide some tips and strategies for them that they can apply to their business today in really helping them make this transition. So the format of our session, again, is it's a short 30-minute session. We'll have about 20 to 22 minutes of content, and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. As I mentioned, if we happen to go a little bit over, I know Andreas has mentioned that he's willing to stick around to do a bit of the Q&A. So let me just introduce our presenter for you today. Our session today is on analytics, and it's tracking the insights that matter the most in your business. Throughout this series, we've talked about video, we've talked about personas, content, communication, conversion strategies, bot technology. Our session last week talked a little bit about SEO. And really today we're gonna look at how you use metrics and you look at your data. There's a lot of data that's available to us in digital marketing, and Andreas is going to share with you some of the tools that you can use in your business, some of the things to look for. He's also going to share an example of a customer that he's working with on how to sort of look at some of this data. And our guest today comes to us from Napa Valley, California. Lucky guy. Andreas Mueller-Schubert has had extensive experience in the internet industry for over 20 years. About 6 years ago, he actually started his own agency, which has become quite a recognized agency in his region. He's also the author of our chapter on analytics in WSI's bestseller, Digital Minds. And so he's got a lot of great insights to share with you today. I'm not going to take up any more time. Andreas, I know you have a lot of great information, so I'm going to hand it off to you.
Thank you, Mike, and good morning, everyone from beautiful Napa Valley. It's a sunny morning. It's very exciting here, and I know that some people may be at the end of the day. Good evening to you, and welcome to the webinar. We see, I want to discuss today how can data drive, your decisions, drive your growth, and what kind of data are available. I want to give you a couple of tools, tips, and hints what you can do, and definitely our network of consultants. We are always looking at these data and helping businesses to make a difference. It's really the foundation of the data that drives decisions and that drives business change. I'm a little bit a data guru my whole life. I'm an engineer and I have an MBA in marketing, and I realized pretty early on, if you understand data, if you understand systems, how they work, you can actually make a big difference in your business. And I want to share a couple of these ideas. Next slide, please. The new reality. I think we all know it. I'm actually presenting from my home office. I can't go to the office right now. Good news is Napa County is just got approved yesterday to move a little bit further ahead in the reopening, which is very exciting. You know, the vineyards are ready, and I know that people are waiting to come back to Napa, but this is what it is. You know, it's our reality too. We are working since over 2 months from home. Thanks God we have the tools virtually. For us, it's not such a big impact. And you know, our youngest child just actually today, he is graduating from university, and we are very happy about it. So we don't have the kids running around. We have some cats running around, but we are working from home. And I think this is a new reality. But what's very interesting, and maybe we go to the next slide. I was looking up, researching a little bit, how long does it take for us to change a habit? And there was some research done. Philippa Lally did it, I think, in the 80s. There was a lot of behavioral change research done. In average, it's 66 days. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, sometimes it's shorter. But what's interesting is what we are experiencing right now. I'm sure that this has already changed our behavior. It has become so normal to be on a video conference. It has become so normal to listen to, you know, think about your school kids. To do school via Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever is being used has to become such a normal part of our life today. And I think this will stick. And this is very important to think about what is happening. And I'd like to show you in the next slide an example from an advertising campaign that we did during holiday time. So there was a holiday special, and we just did a similar advertising in April. So what you saw in the past, and this is how we optimized, it was always a morning spike. People had the time, and this was a Facebook advertising campaign. So what everyone does when we wake up, we check what's going on, and we check our social media profile. We want to be connected. And this is happening in the morning time, just when we have a coffee, relax. Today, this is gone. The 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. peak is gone. It's no longer happening. The same thing what changed in the evening. This was a holiday special, and it typically started to ebb off when people are starting to watch TV. Today, it's actually, we have more purchases, more activities, and we actually, as a consequence, extended the time when we're running ads beyond midnight. I'm not sure if you experience, I have a customer who sends answers to emails at midnight to us. So I think time is no longer so relevant like it was in the past. This is something for us as marketers to think about. When are we sending an email campaign? In the past, it was great to send it at around lunchtime. No longer the best time, because a lot of people that work from home might just prepare lunch for their kids and whatever is going on. So I just want to show you a couple of changes that we see in data, which I think some of them will probably stick for long. Next slide, please. So let's define a little bit of data framework. What I want to discuss and want to show you is a few examples. It's always good to start with your business goal. When you want to invest some money into a campaign, whatever it is, it can even be newspaper, can even be a digital advertising, or you want to start a new business. Think about your business goals. What do I want to achieve? And the more clarity you can generate around this, the easier it will be to come up with what we call SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So we want to define goals where we can very nicely measure. And then we have KPIs that we can track in systems. So start with a business goal, aim for the clarity, SMART goals, and KPIs. And then we move into step 2, where we actually going to start from the bottom. Because now we have the tools, and I'm going to show you a few tools during this presentation, that we start with the data collection. Now our campaign is running and data are coming in, and we're going to see data. We're going to see parameters showing up in analytic boards, and we need to understand what they mean. We need to understand patterns that we see. And I show you an example later, so that we can now start to adjust and fine tune. It's like a circle. You might, with adjust and fine tune, you might gonna go back to your business goals and say, you know what, this goal is not achievable, I have to adjust it. And then you can go through the circle again. So business goal first, clear goals, data collection, adjustments. That's what we're gonna talk about doing this presentation. Next slide. I want to give you a very concrete example. This is what we use when we talk with our clients about lead generation campaigns. My very first question is, what do you want to achieve? What's your goal? And the more specific the goal can be, maybe reaching out, broadening an audience, maybe selling some of my products, maybe being more present in people, and my audience might have changed because of COVID-19. So what do I really want to achieve with this campaign? And then it's a question, and this is a lead generation campaign. It's actually, you're going to see this campaign later. It was actually about selling wine at this point in time. What's the key message and the special offer? What makes people click on my ad that they get to the landing page where we want them to be? Very important question is, what's my target audience? And, you know, in this case, we could go into, you know, customer lists and understand where people are coming from, but that's a very important input. And then we go down, what marketing channel might be good for this campaign? And actually here we did a combination of email marketing and a Facebook advertising campaign. But it's very important to think about which marketing channel do I use, and I will show you that the marketing channels have different KPIs or different data points that you need to track to maybe reallocate budget dollars. And then is very important, because now we got people, now we have people click, and we really need to make sure we know what happens when people click on the link. And when they get to this landing page, what do we want them to do at that time? The conversion capability of the landing page is one of the biggest things that can make a campaign work or not. We do all the great work on the ads and spending the ad dollars, but if the landing page is not optimized to what we really want people to do, that can be a big downfall. So I show you some elements later how you can measure this. And then to be more specific, how much budget do you have? How many cases do I want to sell, or what's my ROI expectation? And at the end, how do I measure success and adjust if required? Next slide, please. Quick excursion to helpful tools. Google Analytics and Google Ads, depending on what you do. If you run a Google advertising campaign, is a very important tool, and I give you some ideas what you can do right after this webinar. I want to talk about a heat map example. Heat map is very interesting to track landing pages, what's going on. A/B testing, it's a very old tool, but you can test A versus B, and I give you some examples. And we're going to do a little bit of deeper dive into the Facebook Ad Manager because I want to share a campaign and how we adjust it. And there's many agency tools which go even further down. And, you know, please reach out to your local WSI consultant. We use all these tools. We have additional tools, so we can set up a very interesting data set of KPIs for specific campaigns or educate you further. Next slide, please. Google Analytics. I think Google Analytics is one of the most important tools when you have a website. And I think in these days, a website really is, you know, your store online. It's your company online. It's your online business card. And you want to know what's going on my website. You want to know who is visiting me, and who means in aggregate numbers. It's not the person, it's more the number. Which channel are they coming from? How long are they staying on my website? What are they doing on the specific web pages? Maybe you have web pages where you have a very high bounce rate, which means people are dropping off. And if you have e-commerce or goals set up, is my website converting? And I really like to give a tip to everyone. If you don't have set up Google Analytics, please do it. It's free. Put the tracking code on your website. If you know conversion goals, for example, if you have a consulting business and you want people to sign up on your form, you can make the submit button on your form a goal that can be tracked. Then you know, if I have an email campaign, how many people really signed up, and you have data. If you have nothing concrete right now, it's good to set it up, because you're going to create a history of traffic where you might want to go back and want to see, okay, how was my traffic this month compared to my traffic last year? And I'm going to show you on the next slide a few examples what we can do. And you can always reach out to your local WSI consultant to get help. You might need to have a little bit of support to get the Google Analytics code into the right position in the code on your website, but I definitely recommend to do this. This is an example, and this is a very high level. Google Analytics can go so much deeper into the activities. It's an example of a client, and we compare to the previous period. That's what I said. Track gate data now so that you can compare to the previous period. And in this case, we see previous period is in orange. It was March, and April is in blue. So it's April. It's pretty recent data. And despite coronavirus, the traffic actually increased by 58% of users that you see on the left side. And you see new users 57% up, which is great. Sessions are up. So the difference between a user and a session is that some users might come back more than once. And in this case, the average number per session per user was 1.3. So it's a good number of returning visitors to the website. By the way, this is a great opportunity in retargeting. If someone has been on the website, we can retarget these people. And then there are some behavioral data. How many pages did people look at in average? And in this case, you see pages per session went down slightly. You see the minus 4.2% that Google Analytics shows us. It's not a big change. It went down from 3.26 pages to 3.13, but it indicates that on average, the 15,000 visitors in average looked at 3 pages. And this is a really good number because people are engaged. Also, people in average on the next slide, the average session duration was 1 minute and 51 seconds, a really good engagement. The bounce rate is a single page visit. So someone comes to your website and leaves, is a little bit high with 40%, but we're also running advertising. So that has one element. Another element is this company has an external store where you're going to do the checkout. So this drives bounce rate a little bit. Not worried about it, but it's a very important indicator to understand if the bounce rate is significantly higher, maybe your website content is not good enough. So understanding these behavioral data and making some decisions is very important. Also, you can understand on the bottom left side, where are people coming from? In this case, organic search, so people searching on Google or Bing is the biggest traffic source. 32% came from organic search. Referral coming from third-party websites, a very big source. And they had some very specific activities going on. That's why referral is so high this time. They got over 2,000 visitors from just one single source. So working with third-party marketing partners can be very successful. Email campaigns, direct people that have bookmarked or put your internet address into the browser, and social media very strong. So you see, this is a very balanced source of website visitors. And on the right-hand side, you see devices. In this case, over 50% is mobile. And it is very important to understand where is my traffic coming from, what device is used. When you run any campaign, a tip is always look at it in mobile. In this case, and I'll show you later, when you do some Facebook advertising, you drive mobile up because people are looking at their Facebook profile on the phone, and you want to make sure that wherever they land, it's really working well on the phone. And on top, maybe you can see I highlighted the email campaigns. This is an impact that we had with email campaigns where emails being sent out, and we got a very nice response here. So you can understand this data. And again, my tip is compared to a previous period, then it means more. And again, this is just scratching the surface, but talk to your local WSI consultant and ask for a deep dive of your data and build some plans how to change things, how to drive campaigns and these kind of things. Next slide, please. Heat maps. Heat map is a technology that we can use to see what people are doing on the website. So we can see mouse clicks or touches on a phone. We can see how deep people scroll down a page. This is very important to understand, especially if you have a landing page where you want people to convert, maybe to buy a product. You want to see, is this working? Or maybe I have too many click options on the page and I'm losing people. So this is a very interesting tool in aggregate numbers to see how many people clicked on my menu, how many people clicked on my call to action button. Is there something that's confusing people? We sometimes detect that people are clicking on pictures or something else, and they might have expected the link, so we can put a link in. It's learning. A lot of the things that we are doing is actually learning. We put some assumptions, and then we're going to test. And maybe on the next slide, I give you an example of A/B testing. A/B testing is that you might have two different versions of an ad, what you see on the right-hand side. And we actually did some live A/B testing of the two ads to see which one is performing better. We also can test the marketing message, making sure that the marketing message, what we have on the ad, is really resonating with people. And one tip is actually only test one variance. Don't do too many different variances because it can be confusing. You might not be able to come to conclusions. But it's very interesting, for example, you can start with this. If you run email campaigns, you can actually maybe have two different subject lines and send 50% of the data to one part of your audience and 50% to another one to test the subject line. Next slide. Let's talk about some KPIs. And I also provide some industry benchmark. And this is for paid advertising. Paid advertising, and this is an example which is related to Google search and Google display network. But it's for advertising. It's good to understand the number of impressions or reach. How many times was my ad shown, and how much did it cost me? CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions. It's very important to understand how much money are we investing? Are we in an area that is cost effective, that we show the right audience? The click-through rate is very important, and the benchmarks on the right side are click-through rate per different industry. You know, on search, they tend to be higher, the click-through rate, because people have an intent. On a display network where you see an ad, it's a little bit lower because people might not be right in the position right now to do something. But it's very important in these scenarios to show your ad in front of the right audience. And I'm going to come back to that later, because now you can see, is my audience that I'm addressing with my ads engaging? Are they clicking on my ad? It's a very important KPI that we do for audience adjustments, and I show you later in the example that I want to share. Cost per click, very important. How much do I have to invest that someone clicks? And the most important parameter is cost per acquisition or result. How much money do I have to invest in the advertising campaign to get to the result, whatever I want to have? Maybe purchase, maybe sign up for a form. So it's a very important parameter, and I show you some examples later how we're going to use this. Maybe the next slide. This is an example for email marketing. And again, I give you some benchmarks from a HubSpot blogs, pretty recent. What is my average opening rate if I send out an email campaign, and what is my average click-through rate? So I want to make sure when people read my email that they click the link and I bring them to the page or information I want them to bring to. So some KPIs, I sent, let's say, 10,000 emails, and now I want to know how many people bounced. And this is actually very important in email marketing, because this is also used by the industry to identify spammy email senders. So if you have a lot of hard or soft bounces, your chance to get through the spam filter actually goes down. So always look at the bounces, and a hard bounce is the email doesn't exist anymore. Clear up your list, because otherwise it's going to hit you again, and your email sender score goes down. Opening rate, you want to know how many people opened my email. You see it's about 20% on average throughout the industry. If you send emails to people that maybe have signed up for a subscription, your chance is higher. than people that just signed up for an email, but 20% is a good number. If you're beyond 20%, it's a really good number. Click, 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 click. That's what we want to have. We want people to click on whatever we want to advertise. Go to our blog, go to our special offer. That's why we are sending out the emails and getting people to our website, to our landing page to do something. And then on the landing page, we are Google Analytics. We can identify, are people, how long are they on the page? Do we have a high bounce rate? Do we have a good conversion? So this is how you can identify how successful is my email campaign. And I know that this is potentially a lot of information, but talk to your local WSI consultant, because this is how we run and how we're going to optimize campaigns. And I want to share an example here how we do this. This is an example. It's a winery we are working with, Gurkic Hill Estate. Mike Gurkic was actually the winemaker for the Chardonnay, who won a big Paris tasting in 1976 and really brought Napa Valley onto the map. And he had his 97th birthday. So around this birthday, we created a campaign and a special. And this was the different geographic areas that we identified, the target audience. I really want to quickly go and show you how we optimize this campaign. But we were looking at geographic, to our driving distance from Napa Valley, the West Coast, nationwide, some top cities. We created what is called lookalike audiences, a different match of 1 to 10%. These are Facebook specific areas, and we were mixing up the different capabilities. And maybe next slide. And this is how we set up the campaign. We had nationwide, and you see I highlighted two areas. We had a nationwide campaign with a 1% lookalike and a 5 to 10% lookalike, addressing the same cities, but seeing, oh, there's a big difference in the number of results, in this case purchases, and the cost per result. You remember the CPA? This is very important that we now understand early on in a campaign, how can we optimize? How can we maybe rebalance some budget dollars into different audiences to get to our goal is always get the best or the lowest amount cost per result and get the most results. And this is how we're going to measure different audiences and balance them. Next slide, please. And this is a high-level view, but you see here that this campaign reached about 110,000 profiles, and we had nearly 200,000 impressions. And we're going to look at what is our cost per 1,000 impressions, CPM. This gives us a good feeling. Are we from a targeting perspective, and specifically with the link clicks, how many clicks do we have and how much do we spend per click, gives us a good feeling about the audience in general. And then on the bottom, you see there's a checkout. How much do we pay on advertising dollar to get the result? In this case, a purchase. How much money do we have to spend? And you see also, this is what we typically do. We start the campaign slow to test the audiences, and then we're gonna scale up. Then we're gonna put more money into the campaign. And you see in this kind of 3 steps that we did in this campaign, and this was early on, this was about two weeks into the campaign, to get some really good data. Next slide. What's also interesting, because we're collecting the data, we see more data from, let's say, the audience specific, from the age perspective and gender perspective. In this case, we actually had a very balanced audience, and you see the blue arrows are reach. These are the people that we reached. So, and the link clicks. And you see that the older age group, 55 and above, in relationship to the reach, so they saw the ad, we have a higher click. The click rate is much, much higher, and this is very interesting to see, and especially in the second part of the slide. So on the right-hand side, you see the amount that we spent to reach these age groups and genders, and the link clicks. And in this case, specifically, the male audience was really overperforming. And on clicks, you know, look at the 65 year and older, how many purchases they did. This is a Facebook ad, and these are very interesting results. So if people think that Facebook is only something for the young people, no, it's actually very, in this case, we have a lot of engagement happening with people 50 years and older. A very interesting result. We have done advertising campaigns For other wineries, completely different picture. But this is important to understand what's going on. And maybe to summarize, and I hope I could give you an idea what we have done here. So we moved the ad budget into the best performing ad set to optimize for the cost of acquisition. We adjusted age and gender targeting to reflect the higher engagement of 55 years old males. And we changed the daily time, the slide that you saw earlier, that we are now running advertising campaigns until 1 a.m. in the morning. And there's a lot of activities and purchases happening very late in the day. Just in summary, define your business goal, define metrics, smart goals that you can measure, track and analyze your data, and then ongoing optimization. One of the big benefits we have in our industry, and I'm sure you, when you work together with your WSI consultant, that you can really fine tune, you can really go in and make a difference for your campaign. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great, Andreas. And I know we've got some questions here, and we knew this was going to be a deep topic. So hopefully people can stick around for a few more minutes for some of these questions. Before we get to the Q&A, I just want to remind people, if there's more information about analytics, as well as all the topics that we've been talking about in our Digital Minds book, which is available on Amazon, you can just go in and search WSI Digital Minds. Also, just a reminder, Andreas said, this is analytics can be very technical, and there's a lot of great information there that we can learn from. But it may, it's something that if you need help with that, just talk to your WSI consultant. Obviously, they've got a lot of training and learning in this, and they can help you out in terms of understanding what the data means. And if you don't have that data, how you're going to be able to get that. If you don't know who that is, just reach out to contact@wsiworld.com, and certainly we can help you out with that as well. Also, just want to remind you that we do have our next webinar. It's our last in the series. It's been a great series so far, but next session is really important because we're going to talk about defining that post-COVID-19 plan. We're starting to see some areas opening up. As Andreas had mentioned, there's been a lot of behavioral shifts that have happened, many that will continue on. And so it's important to have a clear plan coming out of COVID, and we're going to have that next Wednesday at 11:30 with Carlos Guzman. Now let's get to some Q&A. So Andreas, we've got a lot of great Q&A here. A couple of them just around the tools, just asking about the heat mapping. There's a number of heat mapping tools out there. I know we talked about Hotjar. Is there any that you would recommend specifically for the heat map?
That's actually different tools, and they all do the job. One tool that we have used a lot, and especially if you're interested to get a chat function onto your website, Lucky Orange is very reasonable price. That works well. But there's many different tools, and it really is important. Again, what do you want to measure? What is most important? So do a little search and compare. But all of these tools that are out there are bringing you the information that you have. You might not need all the features that the tool is offering. You can start on the lower end and just get used to it. This definitely helps you to understand what's going on your website.
Okay, great. Questions just regarding benchmarks. I know we shared a couple of examples there. HubSpot obviously has some information. We shared a chart from WordStream, which is another big industry that does software that manages paid search campaigns. Any recommendations on that in terms of if somebody said, "Hey, I'd like to," what are the benchmarks for my industry? Where would you point them for that?
So I would recommend do the same what I'm doing, Google or Bing it, and there's a very good source of information. I always like to look at the HubSpot blog, what they are doing. There's some very good information, but just Google it, and the search capabilities are so good right now. Whatever comes up on page number 1 most likely gets you what you want. I actually searched for these 2 benchmarks yesterday, and within 5 minutes I had them. So search. It's the easiest way to get to this information, and it's also the easiest way to get to updated information. COVID-19 definitely has changed things, and we're seeing more and more data coming in that show what has changed.
Okay, great. A question here just about landing page. So somebody saying, "Hey, I've got a physical product that I sell. Do I need to have a landing page?"
It depends really what you want to do and what you're offering. If you have a special product that you want to sell, yes, I think a landing page could, maybe it's your product page in your store, optimize it a little bit. That's definitely an option. You might want to create a landing page if you have a special, you want to bring some of your products together. You want to maybe differentiate between members or non-members, different prices. So having these kind of capabilities makes a lot of sense. In the case sale, we just brought people to the store and people could select what they want. So it really depends what you want to achieve. If you want to have more opportunities for the people coming to select, in this case, different wines, the summary store page could be a great landing page.
Just a question about email marketing. We talked a little bit about that, and you mentioned that you're seeing shifts in some of the trends in terms of, sales and things. Are you seeing any shifts in terms of best times to send emails?
Yes. So in the past, I think the most popular time, the most successful time was Tuesday at 11 a.m. That's when the highest opening rate any day, any time, just before lunch break on Tuesday. Not Monday, because maybe people are working too much of catching up from the weekend. Tuesday was the day. I personally think it's no longer 11 a.m. I think it's actually, we have seen some really good engagement closer to evening time, where people have a chance to calm down. Maybe this homeschooling is over for the kids and, they are playing and it's calm and you can read something, or maybe after dinner, I just gonna relax. That's actually the time what we saw in advertising campaigns and also in email, where the click-through rate is actually pretty high. That's when people have the time. So yes, definitely has changed. And look at the data. It might be different industry by industry, but yeah, it's changing.
For sure. And I would think some of the email marketing providers are probably collecting some of that information now. And as you mentioned, I'm sure they'll probably be coming out with some reports and data of some of the changes in consumer behavior. But in any case, I know there's still some other questions. I know we're over time and so forth, but this was a great topic. And again, analytics is such a deep thing. And I think you did a great job of just sort of providing some good high level tips to everybody here on the line. And again, if you've got additional questions, just reach out to your local consultant. They can definitely help you with this particular topic, as well as the other topics that we've been talking about. And again, if you don't know, just reach out to us corporately, contact at wsiworld.com. Also, just quickly before we go, just a reminder again about our session next week. Make sure you get into that. That's going to be a great segment with Carlos Guzman on getting your plan together for coming out of COVID. Andreas, very helpful. Thank you for all the tips, the time that you took here to go through this. I think it was valuable for everybody. And we'll look forward to, and thank you everybody for attending. We'll look forward to seeing you all next week for our final installment of Ahead of the Curve. So thanks very much, everybody. Have a wonderful day.